Now, speaking of gross goodbye, who's going to be upset more than James Comer that he won't have Biden to kick around anymore? Now what? Comer on Bob Woodward accusations. Kiss my rear end. The Weiss report on Hunter Biden, the corruption of the Biden family, and Bob Woodward comments on Rob shit tonight.
All right, we see this nonsense from Jack Smith as the corruption of our DOJ is put on blast by special counsel David Weiss, releasing a 27-page report excoriating Biden and admitting what we all knew, that Hunter was selling Dad's name all over the world and the Bidens were getting rich. He doesn't say this in the report, but obviously Joe knew about it, as evidenced by the pictures. There's Xi Jinping.
Yeah, that's when he's vice president? No.
And Joe and Hunter, for example, making loads of...
Right. By the way, how has Xi Jinping been faring under the Biden administration? Real quick. With just days to go in his presidency, here you go. Joe Biden is releasing a flurry of new measures that challenge China's chip making and shipbuilding and limit Russian oil, while a ceasefire in Gaza is said to be within reach after months of failed talks. The Biden administration is clearing the decks before he's inaugurated, wrapping up probes and issuing new policy. In many cases, analysts say these moves will benefit the incoming Trump administration, giving it new negotiating tools against China, Russia, and others, because it's for the betterment of the United States, not for Trump himself. In less than a week, the White House has sanctioned Russian oil producers and ships, restricted semiconductor chip exports, found Chinese shipbuilding practices unfair, ceded federal land for AI centers, and cemented plans to effectively bar Chinese vehicles. With his last-minute announcements, Biden is trying to shape how history will remember him, said Robert Rowland. In doing so, he's giving Trump a lot of leverage, adding that Biden may not be helping himself. I don't know what the fuck that's supposed to be. If Biden wanted to burnish his legacy, he should have been doing these things a year ago. It's too late now. No, he isn't. He was doing these all along. This is just yet another step in all these. Biden will deliver a farewell speech from the Oval Office Wednesday evening. That's tonight, which I think he's going live in a little bit. Biden's team is teeing up some of the final measures that Trump will use to fulfill campaign promises, blah, blah, blah. The investigation into Chinese shipbuilding, for example, recently concluded that Beijing used financial support, forced technology transfers, and intellectual property theft to unfairly disadvantage U.S. shipbuilders. According to Reuters, conducted under Section 301 of the U.S. Trade Act, the probe findings allow Biden to take credit for holding Beijing accountable while creating a legal pathway for Trump to make good on his promise of raising tariffs on China. In many ways, this is a test case for what we need to do domestically in terms of industrial policy to correct for decades of laissez-faire globalization, said one Democratic source. Republicans would be smart to use this probe to further their own plans. Pluses and minuses. Like, again, so if you think, if you went back in time and went, by the way, Xi Jinping, this guy's going to be president, and he's going to fuck you worse than anybody in the history of the CCP.
Money in China selling Biden's power to an adversary, really an enemy is what China is when you think about what they do to us. And then when they
what do they do to
make
us?
all this money, the millions of dollars, then Hunter refuses to even pay taxes on it. It all culminated with Joe Biden's big pardon for his son and business partner. You've got Weiss writing, other
presidents have pardoned family members, but in doing so, none have taken the occasion as an opportunity to malign the public servants at the Department of Justice based solely on false accusations. Oh my God.
Family members, but in doing so, none have taken the occasion as an opportunity to malign the public servants at the Department of Justice based solely on false accusations. This is Biden going after David Weiss and calling it politicized after the DOJ did so many things to try and let the Bidens off the hook for all these years. How ungrateful can you be? Kentucky Congressman James Comer is the author of All the President's Money, and he joins us tonight. Sir, your thoughts on the Weiss comments?
Well, obviously, this is an admission of guilt.
Somebody's Siri started talking. Do you hear that?
Sorry, I don't understand.
Apparently, Siri does not understand Rob Shit's English.
Well, obviously, this is an admission of guilt. Weiss is noticeably upset that Biden gave him the pardon. I mean, the pardon proves.
He's noticeably? Hold on. Did they speed this fucking clip up? Because I looked at this. Custom one. This is normal speed. I'm going to drop this back to 75.
That Hunter was guilty, not just the pardon, but the way the pardon was written to be so broad and to cover over a decade. It was an admission of guilt.
It totally was.
By Joe Biden. And if you...
By Joe Biden, he totally admitted the guiltiness. I think I'm going to go back to the fucking normal speed. There we go.
Think about David Weiss. He was appointed to protect Hunter Biden. I said that, and CNN and MSNBC went to town and laughed and said that was ridiculous. But he was appointed. When he was appointed, we stopped being able to get a lot of the information that we were getting in the form of bank records and all that. The government blocked us from turning anything over to the National Archives. So Jack Smith was a tool.
Sorry, they stopped you from turning things over to the National Archives
To obstruct the investigation. And then he did.
Sorry, who was?
So Jack Smith was a tool.
Jack Smith?
And all that. The government blocked us from turning anything over to the National Archives. So Jack Smith was a tool to obstruct the investigation. And then he did Joe Biden the biggest favor he could do. He
You mean Weiss?
only barely indicted him on just a tip of the iceberg of what he could have indicted him on. And then when it's all said and done, Joe Biden kicks him in the rear, and just like he did all the scoundrels that were laundering money with the Bidens and all the schemes. So if you're not a Biden, you're expendable, and David Weiss was expendable today.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You've got the
Yeah, it's so right. What?
#1 political book in the country right now. Congratulations on that.
So nobody's buying political books is what you're saying?
New York Times reporter
Okay.
Kenneth Vogel is reporting that Bob Woodward is accusing you, though, of making fake statements in your book. He says Woodward denies saying that Joe Biden allowed his family to sell access to him. Your response to Bob Woodward?
Well, Bob Woodward invited me to his house. We had a 3+ hour dinner. He recorded it. He said he recorded it. And what the topic for 3 hours was about the Biden corruption. What I said in the book is 100% accurate. Woodward said, well, it's a well-known fact, and it's been well documented through many stories by many publications that the Bidens were always in trouble, always in financial trouble, always selling access to Joe. But as far as I knew, that wasn't illegal. That's what Bob Woodward said. He was influence peddling, but influence peddling wasn't illegal. And he was asking me, what are you going to be able to prove that hasn't already been written about?
Yeah, influence peddling technically would be. I mean, that would be accepting bribes, I guess. So Bob Menendez isn't going to jail. Again, I'm going to go with the Jamie Comer has shit in his ears theory. Because if Bob Woodward recorded it and he's on the record as saying this was a fabrication, it was bullshit, and Jamie Comer didn't record the thing, I'm going to guess that just Jamie Comer, as we've seen before, has shitty reading comprehension and even worse auditory comprehension from what he hears from people talking. I'm just saying because he's, what's the phrase I'm looking for? Fucking stupid.
In the New York Times and the Washington Post about the Bidens in the past. So, it wasn't an admission that they were guilty. When what I said in the book was I took that statement that he knew they were corrupt, but he didn't care. And so he's upset by that. I don't really care. Listen, Bob Woodward can kiss my rear end. I spent a lot of time with him on his book. I've read a lot of his books. But at the end of the day, everybody
at the end of the day, that's just where my kink lies.
America knows the Bidens were corrupt, and my book documents it.
Well, and what?
No, it doesn't.
What a fall for Bob Woodward to actually try and deny that Joe Biden knew about this. I mean, at this point, you'd have to be.
Also, he doesn't deny that Biden knows about it because he can't know whether that's true or not. It's impossible to know. He could say he denies it or he says he knows about it, but he can't know what Joe actually knows. What he denied was what this fucker said he said. He's denying what he spoke, Rob shit.
Deaf, dumb, and blind to not see that this was clearly a scheme, that Joe knew about it, that Hunter was the business partner. I mean, it's so obvious.
It's so obvious, even though both of the countries that supposedly this was supposed to benefit got fucked in the end, especially the Russian handlers of Kyiv up until the point that they split ways.
I'll leave it there, but Congressman, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah.
Oh my God, lazy and dumb. Chat room, hit that like if you would.